Good evening and welcome to Money Matters. My name is Pat Welde with Merrill Lynch, and with me this evening is Patricia Dunn, also with Merrill Lynch.
Good to see you.
Patricia, how are you?
Great.
Fantastic. How are the clients treating you nowadays?
Actually, the clients, ever since 2008,
Yes.
have been treating us very well,
Good.
sending in lots of referrals. They really appreciate the difference that an advisor makes.
Well, that's one of the things that I really wanted to start and really discuss with you. That you and I both have been with Merrill Lynch in the business for a very long time, and I know over my time with Merrill Lynch, I'm there 27 years. My business card, the name on it or the role on it has changed probably 6 or 7 times.
At least.
And I know you've been through the same transition. Why don't you talk to our viewers about really what has changed in our business so that literally today you and I do something very different than we did 27 years ago or 30 some years ago, and explain to the viewers really the evolution that we've gone through.
All right. Very good point, because the general public has really no idea how the industry has evolved. I'm almost 40 years. I'll be 40 years in January of 2016 doing this. Mm-hmm. And when way back in the dark ages when I started, we were all a traditional stockbroker. Have I got a stock for you?
Sure.
And those of us who are here 27 and 40 years later are here because we were good at that. Mm-hmm. And over the years we have evolved. As we evolved, the financial services industry evolved into 3 different models. There's 3 different types of advisors. Mm-hmm. And we don't wear name tags that say, I'm type A, I'm type B, right. I'm type C. And the general public is not aware of the types that are out there. So let me go through the 3 types.
I think that'll be helpful.
The first is your traditional stockbroker, traditional bond broker, traditional preferred stockbroker. They are very product oriented. They're trying to find the next Google. They want to work with the investor for their risk tolerance and find the perfect product oriented.
Right.
The second type is what I call a basic advisor. A basic advisor kind of evolved in the early 80s. And the shift went away from the product to the portfolio. And your basic advisor is somebody who applies science to a portfolio and tries to position the client in such a way that when the market goes up, the investor has the opportunity to go up more. And when the market goes down, they have the opportunity to go down less. Now, I use that word opportunity on purpose because nobody can do that consistently.
Right.
But if over time they have more winners than losers, the value the investor gets from working from that advisor is that over time they will outperform the market. But the emphasis is on the portfolio. And then after 2 bear markets in 10 years,
right,
we evolved yet again.
Yes, a lot of pain.
And what happened is, you and I happened,
Right.
We went to advisor type C. And that is your comprehensive advisor. And a comprehensive advisor, as opposed to the second and the first group, puts the client in the center and works with the client's needs, their wants, their dreams, and then will build an asset allocation around that targets specific portfolios to the need and specific ones to the want. And specific ones to the dream. They're holistic. They do things in addition to portfolio management and discipline. They'll do life insurance, mortgages, estate planning, financial planning, because the whole idea is, how do we help the client achieve what they want their money to do? What is the purpose of this money? And until that's explained to the general public, I have people come up to me and say, Pat, I have a basic advisor. I really think it's a time in my life where I need a comprehensive advisor.
Right. Yeah, because I think you said a lot there in trying to help the viewer. We're not saying any of these are bad.
None of them are bad.
Even the basic advisor who can put together a terrific, risk-adjusted portfolio. The problem is without the holistic side, as you're saying. Someone can have a fantastic portfolio that has performed well, whatever that means, and I'll come back to that. Whatever that means. And then, have maybe a debilitating injury or a disability, and if they don't have disability insurance, which is something that you would uncover and help clients with, make sure that won't blow up all the good that they've done, that's a big shortfall and a very big difference for what we're trying to help people with.
And the biggest one I run into is parents becoming dependent upon the children.
Sure.
And the children have been working hard to build towards that lifestyle to which they'd like to become accustomed in retirement.
Right.
And suddenly mom and dad need their help and all their hard work.
Yeah. Or with mom and dad, with this longevity that people used to talk about, now we're actually living it, and the likelihood that, of a married couple, one of them, spending some time in a long-term care facility, is increasing, literally each year, the likelihood of that. So,
and it's your comprehensive advisor that's going to talk to you about, do you have long-term care coverage? And
right.
What are the options?
I want to dig back into this in a minute, but before we do that, we got a question from a viewer. Do you have a moment for a question? I have a question from a Mark Jackson from Exton, and Mark asks, are muni bonds a good investment at this time? And for our viewers, muni bonds are tax-free municipal bonds. So are tax-free bonds a good investment at this time?
Mark, I would say no. We're at a point where interest rates are going to start to rise. And we haven't seen a serious rise in interest rates since the late 1970s. So a lot of people have no memory of what that was like. And from 1976 to about 1982, investors lost almost 50 cents on the dollar with their bonds. So I would say, you know what's coming. Mm-hmm. The best way to avoid a punch is not be there. You may need bonds for cash flow, and out of all the bonds, the munis are the best. But I would say wait a year and then buy a little. And wait another year and buy some more. And a third year and buy some more. Because you want to ride that wave as the interest rates go up. Had people done that in the late 70s, early 80s, they would have fared a whole lot better than those who rushed in the late 1970s and put all their money in bonds. They were the ones that were hurt the worst.
Right.
So I think it's patience, it's discipline, and I wouldn't be buying muni bonds for a year.
Or as you said earlier, if you are, make sure you're laddering your maturities to reduce the risk of rising rates.
But it's hard to buy a one-year muni bond.
No, I get it. No, I know. Well, Mark, hope that was helpful to you. And if your viewers have questions, we love hearing from you and to give you the answers that you need and deserve. So here's how you send questions to us here at Money Matters.
You can have your questions answered on Money Matters. Please go to our website, money-matterstv.com. On our homepage, click on the banner on the right that says, Send us your questions. While you're on our website, you can find information about our hosts and guests, as well as show notes and links about this show and past shows. Money Matters is also available as a podcast on iTunes and Stitcher, so you can listen to Money Matters while you're on the go. That website address, again, is money, M-O-N-E-Y, -matters, M-A-T-T-E-R-S, TV.com.
Well, thanks again for the question, and please send them if you have them for us. So, Pat, I want to go back to this comprehensive advisor that you were talking about, and I know our business card now says wealth management advisor, which is what we do, and there's a lot to that. How do you know who you're dealing with? And I hear about and see about, credentials for financial professionals. Are credentials important, and what are some of the credentials that, let's say, are more meaningful than others?
They're very important, Pat. Particularly in our industry, the Certified Financial Planner, the CFP, and CIMA, CIMA.
Right.
That would be for your more high net worth individuals who would, a CIMA is a CFP on steroids,
Right.
basically. But you asked, how does the client know what they're dealing with? And
Right.
I think it goes back to, is the advisor you're working with product oriented, are they portfolio oriented, or are they you oriented? So let me explain a little bit about what the process is when someone comes in to work with a wealth management
that was
advisor.
going to be my next question. If someone is a prospect and they say, "Hey, Pat, I saw you on the program. I want to know more about you. How can you help me?" What's a typical client or prospect experience? What do they go through?
Well, we have a very definite process that we go through. Client comes into the office, brings in their statements. We don't even look at them right away. We want to know about the client. We ask a series of open-ended questions. It's going to tell us about their history, their experience, who's going to be depending upon them for money, what's coming up in their next year or two that's going to impact them financially. And then finally, if they had all the money in the world, what would their life look like? So you can kind of get a concept.
Sure.
And we have a card game that we put them through, and we like to put the husband and wife through it separately. In the card game, we have index cards, and each card is a different theme. And it's not personal. It's like what's most important to you: retirement lifestyle, retirement age, major dreams and purchases. It's all issues. And we ask each spouse to put them in order of priority, most important through last important. And then we compare them. And in all my years of doing this, I've only had one married couple that they line them up exactly the same. Everybody's different.
Right, sure.
But then we'll have a conversation. Okay, Pat, you chose major dreams and purchases, and Sally, you chose retirement age.
Right.
How do these two go together?
Yeah.
Is when you retire more important than getting that vacation home? Let's talk about this. And we do that for each of the cards. And what we're trying to boil it down to is, what is the essential need? Now, generally that's going to revolve around retirement age or retirement lifestyle.
Right.
Then what are the important wants? And that could be educating your children or your grandchildren. Or it could be not being a burden on my family. I want to be sure I have long-term care coverage. And then what's the aspirational dream? And that could be the condo in Naples. But once we've determined what is the purpose of the money,
Right.
the need, the want, and the dream, then we look at the portfolio. And we look at the risk tolerance. And we look at the time horizon for each. And we assign a dollar figure. All right, you want to retire at a lifestyle of X, that's going to require Y amount of capital to produce that lifestyle.
Right. Or future savings, this is what you have to commit to, and is it achievable?
Is it achievable? Can you put
Right.
in this much per year? And then we do projection of wealth over the next 10 years
Right.
to see, can we make it? But ultimately what we're trying to get at is funding status. Are you 50% funded to the lifestyle to which you'd like to become accustomed in retirement?
Right.
And if the market goes up, how did that move your funding status? If the market goes down, how much do we have to make up because we got set back?
Right.
And that is a holistic approach. That's a client-centered approach. That's what you get from a wealth manager.
And the practical side of that is, we all run into situations where, the clients have worked hard and they've saved well, and they're far better off sometimes than they think, as they share with you, this is what I really want this to achieve for me.
Right.
All that I've worked for. And in many cases, they're either there, or they're closer than they think. And we can, really be the bearer of good news and say, well, you realize you're taking, a lot of risk
Yes.
the way you're doing what you're doing. and it's just not necessary. Because most people, quite frankly, they don't take the risk for fun. They don't enjoy the risk. They're doing it because they think they need to, or they have to, or they need to make 12% or whatever their number is in their head. And if we run these, these models for them, these goal-based models, and say, no, you're doing fantastic, and we don't need 8%. We can get you where you need to be with 4. Mm-hmm. We can dial down the risk in some cases meaningfully.
And that's where the certified financial planner on the team helps.
Sure.
Because they're the one that crunches that number.
Right.
And then also having a strategy person on the team that can pick out the right strategy. As my strategy person likes to say, he likes to paraphrase Mark Twain. And he says, the difference between the almost right strategy and the right strategy is the difference between a lightning bug and lightning.
Yeah, that's a big difference. And I mean, and conversely, we both run into, investors that we meet, and when we run these analyses, their needs are at a level that, quite frankly, sometimes is certainly not achievable doing what they're doing today.
Now.
So
exactly.
we need to have, no different than a doctor who sometimes delivers bad news and says, hey, if you keep, eating like that and not exercising, it's not going to work out so well. Mm-hmm. We can do the same, holistic advising and say, if you really want to spend this much per month and you don't want to work after age 62, here's the math. It's just simple math that it's not going to work. You're going to run out of money.
Right.
And that, for many, is the scariest thing in the world. So if we run out of one of those folks that is well below their funding status,
right,
we just have to have a very adult conversation with them and say, I know you don't like risk, but nor do I, but you need to change something.
Yes.
Unless you hit the lottery. And you need to take some risk, and we can help people, take a reduced risk. But this is the worst time in the world, unfortunately, to be a riskless investor, because the returns aren't low; they're zero.
Mm-hmm. And I'm running into that the risk tolerance does not line up with the goals of the client.
Sure.
And that's a hard conversation to have.
Yeah. And again, I mean, we can't turn someone who's scared to death into someone who's no longer scared.
Right.
But once we kind of explain to them, the end result, if they remain scared and unwilling to accept any advice, because there is a difference between no risk, and what maybe they are perceiving extraordinarily high risk. There's a middle of the road, and there's even a safer strategy than that, but better than doing nothing because they're scared.
Exactly.
I think it's helpful, the things that we're talking about, and the in our business, to get a better return is called alpha, and there's a report that our friends at Vanguard have put out. It basically is the value of your advice, and or you can just Google Advisors Alpha, Vanguard Advisors Alpha. They have a beautiful, very lengthy paper about what an advisor can do, a holistic advisor, to really help clients get them from where they are to where they need to be. Even though we're charging them a fee for what we do, the report basically right on the first page says it's well worth it.
Yes.
Yeah.
And you and I both have had clients for decades, and they know it's well worth it.
Yeah.
They wouldn't be with us for decades if it wasn't.
Yeah. What are some of the things in that report that that you're mentioning many of them, but what are some of the things that just from practical experience we know that we can help clients with? Not so much the goals based, but how about like behavioral
coaching?
Yeah, how about that?
Yes.
Talk to people about really what that is.
I like to think of it as our intellectual capital. You have someone like yourself, been around for 28 years. I'm around for 40 years. Mm-hmm. We've seen every market that's ever existed. I've been through rising interest rates, falling interest rates, a crash, 2 bear markets.
Right.
We have seen it all. And there is a value to talking to someone who's been around the block and has not just experienced it themselves, but have actually helped clients through it.
Sure.
You take somebody that I started doing business with 40 years ago when they were middle management at a major pharmaceutical firm, and today they're in their mid-80s. We saw them through each of those experiences. That's value.
Right.
You don't find too many people walking around with 30 and 40 years experience.
And it's not, believe me, it's not all, that I have a better calculator than somebody else. Oftentimes it has nothing to do with the calculator. It's really, it's psychological warfare out there. And the television, many times is just not your friend. Unfortunately in our world, bad news sells.
Yes, it does.
So, if we have a really bad day in the market, that they're going to be talking about that louder and more often and with more conviction than when we have a good day. That's just the world we live in. And they scare people.
They do.
What I've had success in helping people, who literally are concerned because somebody on TV told them to be concerned about one bad day or a bad earnings announcement from somebody, is going back to what we had said on some previous shows together, that it's not about the market. I heard about the market. People always want to talk about the market. And I think it is important to remind people, let's not talk about the market. Let's talk about what we actually own, and maybe even help them kind of desensationalize what they're feeling by saying, well, because right now we're getting a lot of calls, I know you have to be as well, about Greece. And believe me, what's happening in Greece is important, but what I sometimes say to clients who literally want to let's sell some things because of Greece. I explain to them and I try to help them and say, let me ask you a question. If Greece defaults on their bonds tomorrow, do you think Nike's going to sell less sneakers? I don't say it laughingly. It's true.
It's true.
We own Nike. We don't own Greek bonds. So why do you want to disturb the good we have here because of something that you saw on TV about something that doesn't have anything to do with
what you've got
let's say Nike,
Pat, I think you hit the nail on the head. The value of working with an advisor is that you're talking to someone who's talking to you from a sense of reason.
Right.
And it's an educated sense of reason. It can bring peace. Another feature that I find that is a value that we really bring to the table is that we are a sounding board when difficult decisions or difficult alternatives need to be discussed.
Right.
We're not the spouse, we're not the best friend, we're an objective party that's been through this not only with you, Mr. Client, but 5 clients before you.
Right. And I think it's important that we share, truthfully, we don't have all the answers, even though we have lots of experience, that doesn't mean we know what's going to happen next month. But what it does, it helps us through the experiences of many real people in real situations, bring it back to say, well, let's make sure what you're concerned about, you really need to be concerned about. Almost play the what if game. Well, what if your fear happens? What does that really mean? And we can help quantify it for them. We can help them, remind them of your card game, and these are your essential goals. If that happens, if Billy doesn't get into that school, is that really going to impact what you had shared with me earlier is your primary goal or essential goal?
Right.
And kind of help them with that.
Right.
And maybe sometimes explain that let's say one of the wage earners loses their job, very serious and very traumatic and scary. We can help show them, let's be prudent and let's assume, that this lasts for 1 year.
Right.
Not like the rest of your life, which is, I know that's what it feels like. I get it. And we can kind of be the voice of reason sometimes and reel them back in and let them know, it's going to be okay.
Right.
You know.
We also can talk to them about building safety nets.
Mm-hmm.
You're not going to find that on CNBC.
Right. Before the fact. It's hard to do after the fact.
Exactly.
Right?
It's easier before the fact. But that's where being upfront and vocalizing what are the potential liabilities that could upset this Apple Card.
Right.
Because if we know about them up front, we can plan for them.
Sure. Yeah, that's the report that I referenced earlier, which I really would encourage our people to read again. Just Google Vanguard Value of Advice or Advisors Alpha, and you'll get a terrific read. Some of it gets a little probably more complicated than you need it to be, but the message is clear that you really owe it to yourself to find someone that you can trust in to help you. Mm-hmm. Basically, be a partner in helping you through this at times scary, volatile ride.
And now that we've explained the three models, at least you'll be able to analyze what kind of advisor you have.
Right, right. And
there is a market for each advisor.
I know you touched on earlier the credentials in the CFP, the Certified Financial Planner, but it is that is an important credential that requires a lot of work, a lot of study, and it's not okay. I passed the test and I'm done. I mean, there's ongoing education that needs to be done. You have to keep up to speed on really ever-changing landscape that's out there. So that's something that's real important.
And people underestimate what's involved in getting a Certified Financial Planner designation.
Yeah. Right.
You're typically looking at 5 years worth of study to pass all the modules for CFP. But the wealth of knowledge that you walk away with when you've completed that is significant. Yeah, no, I mean, as I said, that's why I said earlier, and some that mean more than others, because there are some credentials in our industry that are, for lack of a better phrase, easy to get, yes,
and not, not to me at least, someone who knows the difference, not as meaningful, So to summarize, I think what you're saying is, the comprehensive advisor, does financial planning,
yes,
and then will do the primary thing some people think we do, but it's just a small piece of the puzzle, is portfolio management. Sure, that's part of it, but it's just a piece of it. And then we add in layers of discipline and behavioral coaching and give them continual, consistent guidance to allow them to stay on track and remind them, when they're veering off track or when things are going good and they're ahead of schedule, and maybe now we can add in some new goals that they haven't even thought about. Exactly. It's really three-pronged. It's financial planning, right, it's investment process and discipline, and then it's behavioral coaching and or intellectual capital, whatever you want to call it. Those are the three elements. Well, we thank you for your time today. It was a pleasure being with you. Our next guest that's going to be on Money Matters is Maurice Hampton, who's the chairman of R3 Enterprises. So stay tuned, and on the next program you can see Mr. Hampton. Thank you very much, and as always, your money matters.